go. So, so before we hear today from these distinguished costume designers, assistants and illustrator, before I introduce them to you, I just want to say a little bit about the profession. The costume designer is a key collaborator with the director of photography, and the production designer. The costume designer's work is always guided by the script. The work is about developing the character, and that includes helping the actor transform into the person in the story. A person drawn to the profession of costume design is a person with stamina and passion. Black is night and colors pop away. Can you tell us a little bit more about the palette?
Well, you know, the palette, I try to keep the vampires a very dark, sexy palette, which is always sort of blacks, navies, you know, it's to create this super sharp silhouette, make them super sexy, black leather, you know, it's sort of an obvious choice, but also I think a choice that everyone is supposed to respect. Yeah. And then for humans, I try to keep it lighter. If something bad's going to happen to you, you might be worried about it. I have to avoid red in a lot of the sort of more human scenes because I use a lot of red and acacia. Also now in America, there's a lot of red. So the palettes are sort of determined by the scenes and sort of who is in. So I just have to kind of juggle it around. And Laura, my assistant costume designer, Laura Frankon, is here today. We sort of assign a color to a character for a scene, but we have to sort of carefully sort of shuffle it around, and it's always sort of a bit of a color game, right? Sort of where, you know, who gets what. And, you know, if maybe's gone, maybe's gone.
This does happen a lot, yeah, with the honing of characters and ending up with just such a tight palette. I mean, you know, Chrissy, I haven't spoken, but if you want to jump back in, just about how tight our palettes can be. Anyway.
Sometimes you design yourself into a hole.
Yeah, you did.
Or, no, actually, we don't design ourselves into a hole. The producers love words, and then they say no blue, or no black, or no brown, and then, you know, you get to the point where they're like, oh my God, it's so gray.
And they call you up. They call you up and they say, why is everybody wearing the same color in that scene? And you're like,
they took every color away.
No color that's left. So also on that note, you had mentioned a lot of the leather and a lot of the sexy. I noticed also on the show that you use a lot of latex and, you know, things that have a sheen to them so that it pops away.
Yeah.
Are you constructing most of those pieces?
Actually, there's an incredible place in LA called Siren, Latex Couture, and I work with them a lot. It's sort of like a sex shop. Sort of latex couture house. I'm friendly with the owner, and I try to use their stuff a lot because it's so beautiful, and they can build stuff to order. They have the multiples. They can make stuff quickly, and it's all in-house, and it's local on Sunset Boulevard. So it's a great resource for me, and it creates a little more, you know, it's like not leather, it's some machine, sort of, you know, some ham, right? So it also gives her that little sort of matrix edge, you know, I want to give her a little more. So yeah, and it's also just it's a fun alternative to leather.
Absolutely.
Getting it on is interesting. It's challenging.
Yeah. You ever tried to put latex on?
All the powders.
Yeah. And then tell us a little bit more about Sookie's character and her arc that she's been going through with this falling in love and this sort of whole relationship.
Yeah. Well, when she first started to spend time with Bill, and now Steve was sort of in there too. But you know, I had to sort of. She started out as this very sort of almost virginal, sort of young, sweet country girl. A very sort of sweet silhouettes for Doris Day. You know, kind of sweet colors, yellows, pastels. Now, I mean, now in season 5, she's like totally different. She's much more sexual. She's much more aware. She's much more aware of her body and sort of the way she presents herself. So her clothes have gotten increasingly more tight, sexy, overtly sexy, more grown up. So she's sort of just come into her own, I think, sexually on the show. Just sort of what
And is her palette, would you say the palette has come along with that?
Yeah, it's definitely darkened and gotten more intimate. like darker, more intense. Yeah, and this season is really different. There's a lot of sort of weird things happening this season that have, you know, we haven't been in as many dresses, and there's a lot more action this season. And it's fall, also in the script. So the summer dress, the sort of sexy little dress hasn't been one of in my arsenal.
Right. I read somewhere that that you like to shop at places where the characters would really shop.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us more about that?
Yeah, well, I really try. I mean,
So
it's like,
nice.
yeah, I mean, it's a small town, Louisiana, and of course, the Stackhouse is a waitress. You know, I've had to sort of, there are certain times when you have to sort of expand beyond JCPenney or Kohl's or something to get the right fit on a you know, a contemporary actress. There's certain things sometimes you have to deliver, but it's been my desire to stay true to what the characters would wear. So we spent a lot of time at JCPenney. And I put, you know, I shop at Goodwill. I mean, I use a lot of things that really those characters would wear.
You don't need the multiples.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We more and more we get up to 6 multiples of things, right? Especially on the leads. So rarely can I use a single costume anyway.
Yeah. Jenny and I were speaking about the multiples, and because she's in Canada, it's much more difficult to find now. So, what's the question? Really?
No questions.
Everybody knows what we do. Go ahead.
So, we didn't really hear from Imogen yet, so I was
Okay.
just wondering, what is the process between working with a designer and an illustrator, and when is that necessary versus not? Like, when would you design for without an illustrator versus with an illustrator?
It's mostly when things have to be custom made, or if there's a crazy new element to the show. Like I could talk about what Audrey and I did with Fairies, the new Fairy Club that we saw. It just aired probably 2 episodes, I think. So I went into the studio and she took me into this conference room that was filled with reference photos, like hundreds of reference photos. Literally, hundreds.
Yeah.
And so we would go through them. First, you would go through the ones that were no's, and then we would go through the ones that were yeses. And we talked about each different board represented a different aspect of the fairies that she wanted. And each different photo had a certain piece that she wanted. So we would pick about 5 or so different photos per look, and she would say, I want a combination of this one, this one, this one, this part of this, and this part of this, and voila. So we did how many? About 16
Yeah. Right.
of those.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it was awesome. And we also had a big back and forth with production.
Yeah.
As I explained before about how many different ways these fairies were supposed to look.
Yeah.
We finally landed on one and got to move forward. So it's really fun.
Yeah. And also, I would say that the illustrations enabled me to go to production, go to Alan Hall, and really have a conversation with his work well, so we can really finally get to the end. So that's always so huge, having illustrations to sort of represent and show the producers what you're actually talking about. Correct.
That's great. Who else has? Oh, go ahead.
Are there any characters that you find easier to connect to or your favorites to design and come up really quick?
Is this for me?
Everyone, all of them, actually.
For me, I mean, I've been doing this show for long enough that I have such an intimate, relationship with all the characters that I'm very comfortable with their looks. And so I have to say, I mean, I have certain favorites, like, Bianca Lafayette are for me, like, when I see something in the script, I just kind of can jump on it. But, I mean, I love also designing for Sookie if I've got some interesting romantic scene. I mean, it's really a wonderful vocabulary to have when you're so comfortable with your actors in the show.
I would say usually.
Yes.
Assuming that you have, equal access to research materials, is it harder to do something period or something more contemporary when you're like starting from scratch?
Chrissy?
It's harder. Everybody has a thing, but when you do sci-fi or when you do period, we're the authorities.
When you're brought onto a project that has been taken from a different format, like a comic book or a novel, like Blood, do you go through that research? Like,